Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Reflection Connection podcast. I'm your host, Vince Jameson. I recorded a podcast episode last week, and it was lengthy. And it was basically me sharing a vision of what I would like things to be. And I decided not to publish it because of its length, and more so because I could have edited it, more so because of I don't think that we generally need to give voice to all of the ugliness in the world. And I broke it down one ugly piece at a time. Um, I want to be constructive and I want to be solution oriented. And so today is episode 16, I believe. And I'm entitling it, It's Time to Rethink Everything, which was the same as what I called it last week. And the way that I want to go about this is a little bit different. The idea that I want to get to, so I'm shaking everything, the idea that I want to get to is we're all being bombarded right now with a lot of information. Most of it is negative. At least that's what stands out most, right? And so everyone is very aware of a lot of ugliness going on in the world, which a lot of people are saying these are the worst times. I honestly think they're the most wonderful times. And they're the most wonderful times because we have all of this coming at us. We have every kind of information coming at us, which is way overwhelming. And as much as I want to shut off my device, and I think that that actually is sane sometimes, it's also sane to pick it up and take a real look. And I'm someone who has been very vocal about the fact that I create and live in a bubble and have for many years. I don't watch the news of any channel and I don't do these things. And yet I don't live under a rock. And every so often I'll dip in or I'll have information come to me if I need to know about it. And I recently did a bit of a deep dive and it was a bit of digesting and processing and just looking at things. And my point in all of this is what I would like to propose for everyone who comes across this and everyone in general is I would think that all of us, in our own way, would do well to either set aside some time or even I'll propose even more so. Let's be active with this, okay? In the moment, when we hear something, when we see something, when something comes into our awareness, let's acknowledge that it's come into our awareness. Okay, I just saw that, it's awful or whatever. And then immediately follow it with the vision of what you would like it to be. And I would really encourage everyone to not discount the power in that. The power of your response, the power of your choice, the power of what you choose to be in your reality, what you choose for your world to work to become. And many people will say, well, it doesn't work like that. This is, right? Well, somewhat. We as a collective have chosen to have this experience at this time, and there are certain characteristics to it which are being played out. It's a very interesting time. There's more opportunity than there's ever been. There's more freedom in some ways than it's ever been. There's more information and empowerment than there's ever been. But with that comes all of the rearing of every ugly thing that's ever been. And I think there's more to come. And so, yes, it's probably a general statement that we all say that we want peace, right? And we all want well-being for all, and we all want whatever. But do we really? I mean, does everyone really? some people don't. And some people want well-being and peace for the people who are like them. And I'll even say that I'm not completely um, free of guilt of that. When I was living in a place where, for a moment, I was not happy. There was a place that the place that I liked, which I had to leave, and I moved to another place that, because of circumstances, that I had to be for a while. And I completely rejected it at first, and I completely rejected all aspects because culturally it was very different and very, from what I experienced previously, backward. And people were, generally speaking, not as aware and not as respectful and not as uh, caring and not as awake. And what I realized was that I was there for a reason, and that I was there, and with this vision that I had, I could either look around and judge those people, or I could attempt to contribute my vision. Not that and it's not the idea of like, well, I'm better than you, it's the idea of, I think there's, it's been a conversation for years. I think there's such an importance in having representation. Um, it's so important for many people to see themselves, to see others who look like them, or to see um, examples of things that then they could maybe step into. As much as we have social media and as much as we have whatever, there are not always examples that people believe are available to them. And so when you enter into a community that might be struggling in different ways, and you could look at it and be like, ew, I'm gonna get the hell out of here, right? And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but like maybe another option might be, wow, these people have never seen examples of like what it could look like if they valued what they had, and if they had opportunities, and if they maybe could, maybe I could, by example, do things a little differently. And maybe, yeah, most of them might not get it, but some of them will. And so what I'm getting at is, I would propose for everyone, as you're moving through the day, to respond, don't react. Because reaction is the kind of, get me out of here. Oh, this is gross. Oh, these people are horrible. Oh, how ugly. Oh, I can't deal with this. The response is, wow, that was really ugly. Wow, that was really horrible. Wow, that was something that I didn't even think existed. And it's a shock to my system. I wish for those people, I choose for those people to know peace. I choose for those animals to know well-being. I choose for people to open up their hearts and see that they could, that those other beings have value, that those other animals have value, that those lands have innate value in and of themselves, that the land is worth more than the minerals within it. And that the people who are on those lands are not just less than because they live differently, because they have different cultural backgrounds, or because they've been caught in political, socioeconomic dysfunction for generations, that they're behind. And so I think we have to be really careful, because many of us, I'm speaking for myself historically, can be very judgmental when there's some kind of atrocity that we believe in, but then in an essence, not in the same severity, but in essence, hold a similar judgment or a similar, um, you know, cruelty towards something else. So let's respond towards how we would want it. And I think we need to start looking at a lot of different institutions, and we don't need to go into it, which I did last week and I'm not going to do again, but I think we can all agree that the political system is broken, dysfunctional, may have never really been functional. anyway does not serve anybody, does not serve the way it's meant to be. And this opens up a conversation because what I was looking at was that so much of our society started out with really good intentions. So much of what we know of our world to be, whether it's, I don't know, we can go anything, music or fashion or home building and like the real estate industry or the design industry or technology or foods, right? Originally, if you go back early enough, there was someone who had an idea of how I could make this better for everyone. The food spoils and we don't have refrigeration yet. So I developed this way of canning things. So I'm going to can some things and like sell them because not everybody wants to can it, right? And I don't know why that even popped up into my head. I would never eat anything canned. But it's like, go back in time, right? And everybody wanted, somebody who was making dresses and they made it better than somebody else, or they had these different ideas and other people were interested in those ideas. And that still exists to a certain aspect. But what I'm getting at is there's the corruption, and I'm using it figuratively. There's the corruption that happens in the overall monetization and the business creating of it, right? There's what once was the clothing, and I'm a designer who makes clothing, and I make these clothes because I love to make clothes, and I have this vision, right? And then in our world now, that designer, if they can afford to even do it, has to make so many different types of clothing for so many different sizes and market it and have like shows or have this or have that or however maybe the different ways of distribution. And then they're expected to, when you're speaking about the larger industry, make all of these like clothing like a constant supply so that the buying never stops. Because if the buying stops, everything collapses. And that's what I'm trying to get at. And there's nothing wrong with buying, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying new things, and there's nothing wrong with clothing, even the most frivolous clothing, even if you're looking at like, Balenciaga or like some kind of whatever, or Comme des Garçons, like some kind of craziness. There's wonderful artistry in a lot of that. Is it necessary? No, but it's enjoyable, and that is necessary sometimes, and that matters for a lot of people. If you stop those people from buying that, you're not going to supply all the clothes for all the need of the people, because that's not the reason why those other people in the world don't have clothes. And in fact, the countries that once didn't have clothes, now there's countries like businesses like Shine and whatever from China are now dumping all their polyester remnants and onto those shores and clogging them up and a whole mess, because this consumerism. And again, there's nothing wrong with like consuming, but to what end? This constant desire that's been stoked, right? This like fire, like this unending fire. And it's like, it needs to always change. And now, especially at my age, following things, it's like there's so little that's new. And how many times are they going to regurgitate the 90s again? But I digress. What I'm trying to get at is it's like, so again, these things were meant to serve people. Patents were originally meant to, when somebody creates something, so they patent it so that they would then share it with the world and be ensured that they get compensated for it. And now, a lot of times, I would say probably majority of the time, patents are weaponized. They're used to corner the market and cut out the competition, or very often, unfortunately, get shelved. People create medical breakthroughs and engineering breakthroughs and extensions on gasoline or fuel or different types of fuel or cars that run on water. And the big companies will buy them and shelve it and say that never worked or it just disappears over time or what have you. And when corporations get excused and aren't held accountable for basic life, when corporations have their fiduciary responsibility to create profit for their investors, even if it's at the expense of the well-being of the world, it's something we need to look at. And I think that most industries have some kind of aspect of this, where there's information hoarding or there's even in like look at all the like 1,005 supplements brands, right? And it's like most of them are not even really focused on making something so much better. They now want to have a semi-unique spin on a formulation, and then it's all marketing and who could be the best marketer so that they can sell it out, and then hopefully they can sell it to a big conglomerate that's just going to even if it is a great stride, something that was really better, they're going to wind up watering it down or making it defective or using cheaper things. And yeah, it's big business, it's cornering the markets, it's when the emphasis is completely removed from the well-being of all. When processed foods become norm, when we don't have conversations anymore about EMF. It's now starting to research again about the EMF of our phones. In the meantime, for anybody who was around when cell phones first came out and everybody started having cell phones, every year we had articles, because it was pre-internet, Consumer Reports would list the best phones with the least amount of radiation. And it was a normal conversation until the smartphones came out, because they were 1,000 times more than any of the other ones. And everybody wanted to go in that direction. And listen, I love my phone. I love it. I love it. I'm on it all the time. I love it. It does so many wonderful things. I don't want to be without it. I don't hold it. It's on Wi-Fi and airplane mode most of the time. But again, this can probably do all of these things and be altered in some way so that it doesn't create harm, so that I can hold it to my ear and it actually doesn't create harm. And so that there isn't spyware in it and there isn't all this nonsense, right? We have so much nonsense and these manipulations for power or for greed or for control or again for market manipulation and which again is power and greed and control. We need to look at these things. And so let's be constructive. What is the vision that we have? How would we like to see things? Do we really want to barter? Everyone has in the last 5-6 years, maybe decade, there was this huge rising up in these ideas of people who wanted to be homesteaders and bake sourdough bread and grow everything yourself. And well, that's not so easy. And a lot of people had a hard time. And then you get a frost or something that wipes all of your efforts out, or it's just a lot of work. But at the same time, too, I don't think you throw out the baby with the bathwater. There's simple things. I've always looked at fruit, for example. You have a papaya. First of all, it's a huge fruit. It's a huge amount of fruit. A papaya, I'm not talking about the gross GMO ones that are even bigger, but a regular full papaya, generally, well, there's different kinds, but it's too much fruit for one person, so you need to share it anyway. And then you cut into it and there's 100 seeds, and each of those seeds can be a papaya tree with all kinds of papayas, each of them having 100 seeds, which could make 100 papaya trees. You know what I'm saying? But we stop seed saving. And we want to have lawns instead of growing food. And it's like, this was all sold to us, right? And the convenience, and like, well, it's just became easier to buy it than to grow it. So we no longer grew it, but now we lost our power in what we were eating because over time, again, something that was a well-meaning idea that was meant to serve everyone became too concentrated and too manipulative and too selfish. And so where do we stand in all of this? I think that we need to start looking at um, basic minimum standards of living for the world, for everyone in it, and also for all aspects of sentience, for the forest and for the animals and for everything that lives in the sea should have rights. And they're doing that in some countries. This isn't like, well, woo-woo. This isn't like, yeah, that sounds good, but that's never going to happen. Well, it's happening. And like, do you want to be a part of it? Or do you want to like just be miserable because of how things were yesterday? Or do you want to work on today and how they can be tomorrow? That's what I'm having the discussion about. And another thing that I really want to approach is this misguided, everything is about money. And I get it, right? Like I have a design background, interior design background, and I have a love for homes. And there are many points in my life where I couldn't have one, or the way that I wanted. And, I love the idea of building and creating and having the vision and whatever. And I get it, all aspects. And I get the need from the lowest point to for the desire for the luxurious point. But when raw land is worth less than other types of land, when there are houses that are kind of disheveled and people aren't taking them down and building, but then they're building in this pristine forest, and especially for those people that aren't looking or caring about the forest, they just care about the location as in its proximity. When people are taking, Florida is an epicenter of this now, when with what's going on in Florida, when you have this unprecedented growth and this just careless expansion, and the desire for new and selling the new, and then you'll take forests down and then plant some trees again, but it's not the same as the forest that was once there and won't be for at least 100 years or more. When there's other areas, when we have like shopping malls that nobody goes to and they're defunct and they're sitting there apparently all over the country, why are those properties being sold and converted into condos? Why are you taking down forest or trees or fields that have been pristine for forever? It's just, there's nothing wrong with progress, and there's nothing wrong with wanting new things, and there's nothing wrong with building new houses. And then how are they being built? Are they being built with crap? Yes. Yes, America, yes. They are being built with crap. Plastic pipes and all kinds of crap to meet a certain price point and maximize profit, right? And it's like, again, are the houses being made to serve people with the idea of having some profit, or no? It's about maximizing profit. It's about playing off of like market manipulations. It's about where can I get it the cheapest? Developers who like look to always fight town ordinances. I was in California with this. They would always look to like drain the lagoon, which was like this amazing wildlife habitat in San Diego, where it was, to develop it. And it's like, it's just so short-sighted. And yeah, so I think the many ideals that were created in the 20th century about expansion and the idolization, this is key, the idolization that we were encouraged to put on these robber barons and these heads of industry to try to imitate in some way when these people were more often than not corrupt characters. And it's like, yeah, it's just we need to start rethinking what we want this world to be, how we want to live within it. How can it be? How can it be if we don't follow the rules? Because the rules are breaking down anyway. The structures are breaking down and they're going to need to be replaced. Who's going to replace them? Well, the people who are organized and the people who have ideas. And so let's start creating ideas for ourselves. Let's start holding visions for what things can be. And let's start getting involved in our own sphere, whatever that is. Whether you're in a small community or you want to talk about your own house or you want to talk about your apartment, you want to talk about your circle of friends and family, you want to talk about something much bigger, maybe creating businesses or creating initiatives or maybe you have a larger outreach or a larger financial ability that you can create bigger ripples with it. So what can be created? What can be done that's simple? Sometimes it's the simplest things. We think of like these crazy complex things, but sometimes it's really about showing that you care and allowing that to be publicly portrayed so that it ignites other people to start caring. Because in a lot of those areas, and again, I spent a lot of time in Florida, what I saw was certain areas that kind of backwoods or socioeconomically, I won't even say depressed, but just non-existent. They just, I don't know, they just did their own thing. Um, and now they became more desirable because of their proximity to other places or larger cities. And it's like the people were so quick to sell it out because they never respected it because they never respected what they had. When I see people like throwing trash on beaches or in forested sections or outside of their car or anywhere, it's like there's a disrespect for what is, or maybe never even seeing an example of respect to even open their eyes to be like, oh, that's important and special. And I think it might even be the latter. I think it might be much more the latter. I think there's such an importance in representation. There's such an importance in people seeing examples of what can be, people seeing others that they admire, people seeing other people like themselves in some way that they can connect to, that they can be like, oh, okay, I thought that was for somebody else. No, that's for me too, right? And it can be really simple. It can be really simple. And so, yeah, let's all look at what changes can we make in our community, whatever that is, and what changes can we make in our own minds, and how can we respond to the news that we're seeing or the activities that we're seeing and hold a vision and immediately respond with how we would like it to be, what we would choose to be, what we choose. I choose for there to be peace. I choose for peace to exist. I choose for the troublemakers to be seen in every aspect and in every move that they make so that they're no longer hidden and they no longer get away with it. And even if they're still active, they're being seen in every moment. And I choose for the people who are in their wake to be empowered and to be at peace and to hold as much well-being and dignity and empowerment as they possibly can. And we're riding this wave together. And we will make sure that all those affected by these dastardly characters will be compensated. And there's no reason why we can't have a high standard for all. So I said it would be short, wasn't so short. Some things to think about, and let this be an active part of your day ongoingly. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it was inspiring. I hope that you can take something from this, and that it wasn't just a bitch fest on my account. Because we do live in these wonderful times, and the future is not set. It's not. And so I'm very optimistic, and I think that we are really in the best of times, and the best is yet to come. So on that note, I am here, as always, reminding you of all that you already are and all that you are already connected to. Until next time.